Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar on economic sustainability in the face of COVID-19. I'm glad to have you and to be moderating this webinar session. We've got quite a few topics that we're going to go through, and it will be for the benefit of everybody. What we're going to start off with will be an opening remark by Kede Ihie, the chairman and the co-founder of Nigerian Business Magazine. And then it will be followed by presentation by Mrs. Chinwe Ezenwa, and then Professor Obas Ebohon, and then followed by Mr. Femi Akintunde and Igboa Okaisabo. And then we'll have a lot of time to ask questions, and the panel, they would answer your questions. But before we start, what I would just like to leave with you is some key stats. We all know what COVID-19 has done to the whole world. Some of the key stats is that the number of COVID-19 cases worldwide, as of today, July the 3rd, is 10,991,872. As I'm even speaking, it might have even gone up. And the number of deaths from COVID-19 worldwide is 524,176. 176. And then estimated COVID-19 mean infection rate is 2.5. That's quite a lot. And COVID-19 has happened on different individuals and across the globe. We are going to look at how COVID-19 has affected business and how we can navigate the path for us to successfully go through. It's a challenge, but with challenges come opportunities. And the panel of speakers will tell you what to do and what to, I think everyone knows what to expect, but they will be giving you their nuggets of advice on how to navigate successfully. So I have pleasure in welcoming Kede Ihie, the chair and the co-founder of Nigeria Magazine. Kede.
Good afternoon to everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm looking out the window. It looks lovely here. It's not very cold. It's not warm. It's just the way it is. So I want to, first of all, quickly thank our speakers, because it's usually very, very busy. And for you to take time out to come and speak to us. So we will be looking forward to hearing information that will assist us. But let me just quickly say something briefly about us as an organization. Nigeria Business Magazine has been around for 10 years. Wow, 10 years. October will be 10 years that we be running. So we've done a lot of publications, business events, giving information about what is happening in Nigeria and the various opportunities. So it's been a decade of hard work. And so we felt that this year we were going to do our 10th anniversary. Hopefully we'll still do it, but we don't have control over what COVID has in stock for us. So we said to ourselves, let's do some meetings, seminars. And so this is the first in our series. And so it's very important that we get a quality of people. And I have no doubt, I feel blessed actually to be able to have people like Mrs. Ezenwa, Professor Ebohon, Engineer Okaisabo, Engineer Akintunde. Is very rare to have this kind of quality all at once. It's not easy, but what we've done over the past 10 years, we'll continue to build on it. And COVID has really stretched every society in the world. Some are doing well. the only thing that I know that COVID has done is to confirm what I, as an individual, already know about those who cannot cope because of lack of infrastructure and preparedness. But I am not too surprised because countries like America have been also exposed in terms of the way they've handled the UK, Italy, Spain. So COVID has stretched everyone, exposed those who are not competent, and so we must move on. Unfortunately, it's not something that's going to go away. Whether you listen to Donald Trump or not, it's not going to go away. The way he thinks.
Please mute yourself so that you hear. Yeah, please mute yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's the situation we find ourselves. And so today, hopefully, we will be able to unravel some of the stuff because majority of the speakers are practical people who have experiences in a practical way. And I'm sure most of our participants would benefit immensely from your presentations, and there are going to be opportunity to ask questions. So once again, let me welcome everyone on this platform and that we will have a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much. I would call on the moderator to continue.
Thank you, Kege. Welcome to those who have just dialed in. Welcome to Professor Eboho. Before I call on Mrs. Chinwe Ezenwa, just to say that across the globe, there are reports of lower income, savings, and spending. And according to McKinsey's Global Economic Conditions Snapshot, there's the indication that 52% of executives say that their national economies are doing substantially worse, up from 10% in March 2020. On that basis, I would like to welcome Ms. Chinwe Ezenwa. She's the CEO and Creative Director of Lelook Limited. She has over 45 years experience in the public and private sector. She was also former acting managing director, chief executive officer of the National Inland Waterways Authority. Mrs. Ezenwa. Hello, Mrs. Ezenwa.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Panelists and participants. I am indeed very glad to be here today. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Please mute yourself.
We can hear you. I can hear you.
Mute myself?
No, not you.
Oh, okay.
Not you, other people so that they can hear you.
All right. I have to particularly thank the managing director and the team of Nigeria Magazine who have tirelessly in the past decade.
Okay, let me invite you. I invite you now.
At no cost to us, but to them, promoted the cause of Nigeria and Nigerians, both at home and in diaspora, ably led by Kede Aihe and his team. I congratulate you. I am actually puzzled because of the title, because I'm not an economist. I am an entrepreneur. And what we are talking about today is economic sustainability. And my own topic is entrepreneurship. And before I proceed, I want to inform the House that the federal government has just released a comprehensive economic sustainability plan. And I have to congratulate them for that. And I will advise everybody in the house to look for that document and read it carefully so that you will know where you belong. Having said that, entrepreneurship, what is it? And who is the right person to practice that profession? Everybody, I dare say, is an entrepreneur. Everybody. Is it the woman in the house who goes to the market with 5,000 naira or less and juggles that amount until she can put food on the table? She's an entrepreneur. Is it the man that sits under the tree and is also selling recharge cards? He's an entrepreneur. Is it the market woman who stays under sun and under rain and is trying to make a living? She is also an entrepreneur. Or is it the likes of Dangote or Femi Otedola or Kede Ihe or Esosa Ihe? They are all entrepreneurs. But there are entrepreneurs and there are entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur, you can look it in your Wikipedia. I'm not here to do an intellectual exercise. Wikipedia is Wikipedia. But according to Mrs. Ezenwa, CEO of Leluk, an entrepreneur, I think, is someone who is constantly fishing in troubled waters, looking for fish with the hope of catching one. First of all, that water she knows is troubled. Secondly, she has hope that she must get it. An entrepreneur is someone who is constantly biting the bullet. It is war. As far as I'm concerned, business is war. You have enemies on all the fronts. Anyone that rears his ugly head, you shoot it down. You're the general. That is an entrepreneur, a risk taker. You must have the characteristics before you plunge in. So that guy that is selling on the road, that road seller that does Ben Johnson to get you your whatever he is selling on the traffic, is an entrepreneur. He's a risk taker. Because sometimes they are knocked down by vehicles. So, having defined that, I want to take you back because I always use myself to give case studies. That is the way Harvard Business School thrives. They thrive on case studies because that's the only way you can drive your points home. I became a child entrepreneur, a teenage entrepreneur at 16 during the Biafran Civil War. I had to put food on the table for my parents. I had to do whatever I needed to do to ensure that none of them dies during the war. I became an emergency entrepreneur. And I couldn't care less what happens to me. My main objective is that I must succeed, and massively too. And luckily, at the end of that war, I made 100 pounds, Biafran pounds. I handed it over to my father. He was quite sick. And he took that money because the federal government of Nigeria, through their then finance minister, the late Obafemi Awolowo, had declared that whatever amount you had in Biafra then, they can only give you 20 pounds. So my father got 20 pounds for my 100 pounds Biafran money. So we started life with 20 pounds. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it throughout that war. He passed on. So you see what type of entrepreneurship I was practicing at the time. I was making sure that I had things that people needed. I was creating something out of a need. An entrepreneur should be somebody creative, looking to create opportunities out of a need. Then COVID came. 53 years down the line for me. That was a second pandemic. That pandemic came with its own health hazard. That health hazard came with its own protocols. Wash your hands, sanitize them, social distance, stay at home. How can you have economic sustainability with all those protocols? How are you going to survive if you stay at home? Who is going to put food on your table? So you see, it's a different kind of war with an invisible enemy. But if you're a true entrepreneur, like I am, I'm a serial one, it's in my DNA. I started looking for a way to create a need because I have always believed that you cannot waste a crisis moment. There are opportunities in crisis. And if you're a true entrepreneur, you must have seen that COVID has already provided for every entrepreneur an opportunity. Let me start with one of the quickest ones, the low-hanging ones. Look at Zoom. Look at what we're doing. Virtual meetings. Prior to COVID, we would have been looking for British Airways or Lufthansa, this or that, to run to see what Kede Ahiye has to say. Maybe that meeting will not last for more than a day or two. Look at Zoom. Zoom has provided everybody an opportunity. So those people that are now going into IT, techno experts, web designers, you just name it. Is it in the health sector? If you are producing facial masks, which I had to start producing because I'm a producer of bags. But when I saw that there is going to be social distancing, no gathering of more than 20 people, I quickly knew that my business was up, that my business was based on people gathering, schools, universities, conferences, you just name it, burials, weddings. Then I had to quickly adapt. So an entrepreneur must be one that has ability to plan. You must be a risk taker. You must be creative. You must be innovative. You must be always ready to bite the bullet. You must be open-minded. You must be transparent. Because in these COVID times, there are so many things other entrepreneurs want to do, but they are not in any more position to do it. So you need to collaborate. You need to bring manufacturer A to come to manufacturer B. You need to start outsourcing. But how can you outsource when we have trust deficits? Because many people in Nigeria do not know how to trust, no integrity. Because as an entrepreneur, you require to have integrity. People must believe you. The products you produce must have those qualities that will say, yes, this thing can stand the test of time. You cannot collect money from people and give them rubbish, where you import some things from China, and before you use them for 1 week, they have torn apart. Look, it's known all over the world for quality products. So an entrepreneur during these COVID times must be one that is deep-rooted in innovation. We had to quickly digitalize because it dawned on me that there is no room for old school. If you don't know it, you don't know it. I had to, at this age, I'm 69, I had to start learning how to use the computer quickly. I said, whatever it takes, I must get to the root of it. However it takes. It took a friend of mine, Mfon Osoro, to engage me on Zoom once. And there was so much challenge. I was so frustrated. I said, what is she trying to do to me? I now said to myself, look, it's either you do it or you perish, because nobody is going to be pitying you. No room for pity party. And here am I today with even lovely background, so I can do the Zoom. I'm not afraid. Now, having said that, what do you need to prepare yourself with? As a practitioner, I keyed into all the programs, all the stimulus packages that the federal government has been dishing out in the past 3 months. I'm constantly with the newspaper. You have to buy Business Day. You have to go online. You have to be checking what is BOI doing, what is this 50 billion stimulus package, and let me reveal to you. I was playing with my phone and I saw this 50 billion. I said, wow, girl, you must make money now. They gave me all the things that I needed to have so that I can access the CBN 50 billion. Wow. I went into they said it's online. I said, maybe this is, the more you look, the less you see, but let me try. I dived into the system and I applied. They asked me several questions and I answered. They asked me how much money I'm looking for because they had made a stimulus package of 50 billion and they will give up to 3 million for households and up to 25 million for businesses. So I applied for 25 million. Somebody will say, you're so greedy. Yes, I needed that 25 million because I'm an entrepreneur. I had already built a factory in Abuja. And since there was going to be social distancing, I needed to divide my staff of 50 in, and 25 will remain here so that we practice social distancing while we're making our money. Lo and behold, after about 1 month, I heard from CBN. What a shock. I said, in Nigeria? Yes, I heard from them. They had approved some fund. It wasn't up to the amount I expected, but they approved something. And I jumped up. I said, okay, where do I go? I went to the office twice. And when I was frustrated, I wrote again. And they said, you don't need to come to our office. Just give us your BVN and give us your details. We will credit. And lo and behold, they credited me. So if I had sat down and I'm pitying myself and I'm not reading these things and I'm busy gossiping, criticizing government when I have not even done anything myself, because that is the biggest problem we have in Nigeria. People sit down and talk rubbish when they could use those times to grab opportunities that are out there. Do you know that right now, there are opportunities in agro, packaging food, logistics, opportunities in the health sector, making gowns, making footwears, making PPEs. I'm already making PPEs, whether they buy it or not. So an entrepreneur must also go and study how the military, how do they go to war? Because I've been doing that research for the past 4 years. The military has the best strategy for going to war. So an entrepreneur must prepare for war all the time because If you are not at war with NEPA, you are at war with the water authority. You are at war with the FIRS. You are at war with the local IRS. You are at war with your partners. You are at war with your value chain, your suppliers, whether they are local or you are at war with yourself. You are at war with your friends. You are at war with everybody. That is an entrepreneur. So I had to go and find out the military. How do they go to war? Because I'm constantly at war.
Mrs. Ezenwa, can I?
Yes. Yes.
One
Please,
minute.
just permit me. I'm going to round up.
Okay.
So I discovered that the most important thing the military does is strategic planning and contingency planning. So I advise all entrepreneurs, go into contingency and strategic planning. You will always win a war. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very good. So a word from Mrs. Ezenwa is that be strategic in your planning and have contingencies, because in business and in entrepreneurship or enterprise, you are in war. You've got a lot of opponents. You've got a lot of enemies. Make sure you are able to handle your risk and your threats and hone in on your strength and the opportunities. And COVID-19 is an opportunity that is presented to everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Ezenwa. I would now like to call on Professor John Ebohon. He's the Director of Internationalization and Professor of Sustainability and Environmental Law. Head Center for Sustainability and Resilient Infrastructure and Communities. He's going to talk to us about sustainability and the agro and value chain. Professor Ebohon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me try and share my screen first. My screen? Can I share my screen, please? Can I share my screen?
Victor.
Just a moment, just a moment.
Okay. Give him permission, please.
Please try again, sir. Please try again.
Yes. Oh, great.
Thank you, everyone. May I first of all congratulate Mrs. Ezenwa for a brilliant presentation, which was very, very indigenized, giving us her experience and redefining entrepreneurship within the Nigerian context. I really appreciate that. And you're going to make my work relatively easier today. As already been said, let me go to my, as has been said, I'm Professor Obas John Ebohon. I'm Professor of Sustainability and Environmental Law at London South Bank University. It's always a pleasure participating in the event put up by Mr. Ahir and Mrs. Ahir, particularly as they relate to the development of the Nigerian economy as well as the Nigerian people. I'm talking about agriculture and value chain. As already been said by our first speaker, COVID-19 threw a lot of things in the air. It shows that irrespective of how prepared you may be, you can never be fully prepared for any kind of eventuality. And from a personal perspective, as you would appreciate, I said to somebody casually just 2 days ago, I said, if you've never believed in God before COVID-19, it's a very good reason to believe in God. Because if you look at what is happening in Africa, I cannot believe why the calamity we've seen in the developed world, despite their technological advancement and paraphernalia, have suffered disproportionately. So if you look at some of the things that COVID-19 is thrown up, is imbibing all of us to look inwards. You heard about a week ago, we're told that America has bought one of the earlier versions of the medicine known to have kind of effect on COVID-19 for the next 3 months, irrespective of the world. Gone through the window is multilateralism and nationalism is creeping. And this is what you hear when they say, you know, think of number one. Who is that number one? And that's yourself. At the individual level, your community level, your nation, you know, at the national level. Now, what I'm asked to talk about is to look ahead. What will happen after COVID-19? How can we sustain our economic activities, given that we are heavily reliant on import? And I've been asked to look at agriculture and agricultural value chain, which is the topic I've been given. And I also believe that it presents Nigeria a golden opportunity to emerge from the pandemic with the kind of training, knowledge, and competencies. Because if you can feed yourself as a nation, 60 to 70% of your problems are solved. You know, one of the countries, Bangladesh, 78 to 80% of everything Bangladesh needs is derived internally. So I look at agricultural sector, it's one of those sectors where Nigeria will be seen to have a comparative advantage relative to other sectors, being given our geographical endowment and our location and how rich and valuable our agricultural characteristics are. As you can see, agriculture contributes 22% of our GDP. That belies the importance of agriculture to the Nigerian economy. If you look at it this way, you might say, well, look at services. Let us invest more, you know, in service sector than other sector. We are talking here about the formal sector of the economy. Now, if you were to go to the informal sector, which we know is about 60% or 70% of the total GDP, agriculture contributes 46%. So it's highly significant, you know, to the Nigerian economy. And agriculture also has other characteristics. It's labor intensive, although to increase your productivity, you can begin to introduce machineries and or technology to develop the sector. So as it is, if you combine all together, agriculture actually contributes about 40.2% of the Nigerian, you know, of the total GDP in the country. So it's huge and extensive. But unfortunately, it is very, very undeveloped. It's undeveloped because we apply little or no technology or improvement to the sector. As you can see, it is largely subsistence. You produce, you take to the market. Here, our earlier speaker talked about opportunities, and I cannot emphasize that. When I said to somebody, a classmate of mine, a Nigerian university professor as well, when I visited Nigeria last time, we were sitting at his office and discussing. And I said to him, I said, unfortunately, Everything I see in Nigeria is opportunity. He couldn't believe it. He thought I was insensitive to the plight of Nigeria. I took the opportunity to tell him that one of the biggest problems now in the Western world is how to create and generate employment, because almost every other sector is already been touched. I say, here, you look outside of your window, you are applying knowledge, and what you say, you can see how you can transform and engage people in the world of work. As you can see here, you look at cassava, you look at what we do here, all in raw form. And what then follow? If you see, the agriculture sector has already been said today, present a golden opportunity. Research that is being done from 2012 to 2022, it shows food sales as one of the major contributors to sub-Saharan African gross domestic product. That's where you're going to generate significant amount of economic activity. Okay? At the moment, Nigeria does export some products, sesame seeds, 5.6 billion, frozen shrimps, cashew nuts, ginger, gum, Arabia, and green peas as well, so on and so forth. But these are just a tip of the iceberg. I put rubber there because that's what we are defined and known for previously. That Malaysia came and took from us, and they are one of the largest producers, of rubber today. Not to talk about, palm oil, where they derive huge amount of resources in terms of diversifying the sources of revenue from just palm oil. They produce about 57 different kinds of oils from palm oil. And you know what? One of the rarest form of oil is produced, from palm kernel up to certain degrees. Okay. So what is the problem? How do we improve agriculture in Nigeria? In order to try and look at that, we need to concentrate on the agricultural value chain, to go back to the wonderful lecture we received from Mrs. Ezinwa, this afternoon. When you look at this value chain, presents us with huge opportunities at every stage. Input to agriculture. We import most of our inputs to agriculture in Nigeria. But when I went to Aba, I was shocked. I was shocked at the level of competencies and the adaptation of technology, indigenous technology, to agricultural sector. In fact, what I experienced in Nigeria was similar to what I experienced in South Africa. Because in South Africa, you can build a brewery overnight. And if you are dismissive, you might actually doubt the capacity of those people brought to see the process, because they wouldn't conform to your own ordinary, sense of engineers or product, engineer or systems engineer. Why? Because apartheid regime equipped those people, they trained them in Afrikaans, but they were not giving diploma or certificates. So which meant those people remained in South Africa. Okay? And so if you look at the agricultural value chain here, the input in terms of fertilizer, agricultural implements, ordinary cutlass we import from China. Okay? And we are waiting for somebody. If you go to China and you see how they make these cutlasses, you will be shocked it's something that we can do. And it was being done before the Civil War. Okay? And so huge amount of jobs and employment opportunities can be generated at the input supply stage into our agriculture. Primary production is also key. That's where most of us are involved. And to my surprise, I don't mean to say this to insult anybody, especially those of us in diaspora. Linking it to what Mrs. Eziwa said earlier on. Most of us are not different even from our brothers and sisters back home in terms of the way we see opportunities, the way we want to tap into it. Most of my well-to-do friends and colleagues here, when you ask them, you talk to them, they say, oh, yes, I'm going into agriculture. You said, excellent. What's your entry point? They say, I'm going to start planting palm trees. I'm going to start planting cassava. I said, for God's sake, we have millions of people doing that already. What we don't have is how you produce mechanisms to transform what they do into various products. It says you want to talk about food packaging. That's even down the line. What about food technology? I eat carbohydrate in so many forms here. How many forms do we eat rice? You know, in this country, they call it different names and process it into different formats. Okay, we eat rice and stew, rice and stew, rice and stew. That's all we do. When I was growing up, you used to be able to go and buy jollof can, open it, and you eat it. There's huge opportunities here. All right. What about post-harvest handling? I'll come to that again. That's what I showed earlier on. No one would appreciate that 50% of our fruits and vegetables, you know, got rot just after production, are lost because we can't preserve them. We have no mechanism of preserving this product from one season to the other. If I get up here now and say I want to buy corn, I go to the shop, I get a can of corn. It's as sweet as if it just come out of the farm. Are we saying we have nobody in Nigeria who can do that? Now, what about trading? These are all linked. We are telling everyone to go to farm. To go and farm what? To produce what? You know, we tend to believe that those farmers, because they are not wearing suit and tie, they are illiterate. That's why I remain grateful again to Mrs. Nzewa this afternoon, telling us that you don't have to go to university and accumulate degree to be an entrepreneur. No. What you need is that innate ability to see a market, appreciate that there is risk, and plunge into it. That's what an entrepreneur means. Entrepreneurship means. So if you look at that post-harvest handling, how we handle these products, you know, there is a huge gap there. When it comes to trading, we're asking people again to go to farm and start trading. To produce what? How many Nigerians, you know, eat cassava now, or rice, or all these local produce as we produce them? Look at how, what do you call this? They are even selling them in the UK now. This Indomie. See how Indomie took off. All right. So we need to add value. We need to add value to these products. This is how you create jobs. And this is how you create employment and income generating opportunities. Then at the processing stage, where you transform this product, this produce into different products, we also need to develop that sector. As you can see, there is a trading activities, you know, taking place after you add value. Okay, so in other words, up to the final consumption, whatever you produce is an input or could be an input to something else. Okay, so what we are saying here is that value chain management guarantees diverse business opportunities for all, It is fundamental, you know, if we want to take that on board. And these are some of the things that we are saying. Look at post-harvest losses. We lose 50% of our fruits and vegetables, 40% of our roots-based produce, cereals, 20%. And at each phases, post-harvest processing and post-harvest marketing, you know, significant proportion of the value of these products are lost. Okay, but again, you know, not to lose hope. As we can see here, that's a silo. Okay, I will refer back to it later on. This is solar drying facilities where you can preserve food just to last a few months. Here in, what do you call it, in Kano and Sokoto, after many years of throwing away tomatoes, they now find a very, very simple, innovative way of packaging tomatoes, you know, that can go, you know, long distances. Okay, look at what you do if you are able to enhance the value chain, you know, and add value. This is what you do. You keep people employed. I don't need to dwell more on this. It has been proven that when you keep women engaged, right, you begin to reduce population, because the opportunity cost of having additional child is the income-bound businesses that, you know, you will be earning. Okay. Now, we have the infrastructures in place. We have 10 federal universities of technology. All right. And what do? If you go there today, they are all running history courses. They are running literature. All right. And these are federal universities of technology. They cannot produce one single, you know, technological input that will transform the sector. If you think that is bad enough, look at this. Okay, we have university that are specifically, sorry, my something is frozen. Okay, that is
how long do you still need?
Huh?
How long do you need?
No, I just wanted, I'm just finishing now. I wanted to show that we have the Federal University of Technology. We have federal agricultural, you know, technological institutions, you know, as well. You know, these are well placed. We have, you know, federal agricultural bank. Okay, so we have all the facilities on ground. We have what it takes to transform the agricultural sector, to absorb the huge teeming unemployment. For us to be able to attract people into the agricultural sector, we have to make it a sexy, you know, sector. We want to make it an attractive sector that 17-year-old, 20-year-old, 35-year-old leaving university will want to go and make a career out of. So if we have all these facilities and the brain, what shocks me to the core is this. When apartheid came to an end in South Africa and all the whites were leaving South Africa, you know, the South African government appealed to the American and the European for assistance. So they sent all their experts, you know, to South Africa. Mandela went in there and wanted to welcome them, and then suddenly realized that there was not a single black person there, and asked them to look inwards. And all of a sudden, they came in and went to historically black institutions in America. Guess who they sent? Among the people they sent to South Africa to show up the agricultural sector, 10 of the leading people were Nigerians. Okay? The guy who was bringing millions of dollars into the livestock was a 35-year-old Nigerian professor from University of Ibadan. He's late now, may his soul rest in peace. Okay? And so we have these people, we have the competencies. What is lacking? Is it federal character that is not allowing people with the knowledge and ability to implement and effect their knowledge to achieve maximum impact? Or is it for lack of political will? Now coming to those of us here in the diaspora, if we want to look at areas in which we want to, connect with the agricultural sector, as Mrs. Ezenwa has just said, giving us a roadmap. We don't have to go and start replicating or duplicating the efforts. What those in the agricultural sector want, there's a model they use. Farmers, they use what we call cobweb model to plant. What does that mean? If you have an acre of land and you use that acre of land to plant potato and then cassava, it depends on how much you are able to sell of cassava this year and the profit you make from cassava this year that will determine the amount of acreage you use next year to plant the other product. If you make more profit, you use the whole acre, your whole acreage, to plant that product. In other words, supply creates its own response. If our farmers know that they can produce beyond the subsistence level, which means they can produce goods and services, they are able to take it to the market, and they are able to sell it, they will expand. So I'd like to conclude to say that, yes, we need help. We need to get involved in agriculture, but we have to be very, very strategic. Again, I refer to Mrs. Ezenwa. It says, if you are going into any business, it's like going to war. You have to be prepared. If you are going into a battle, you don't know how you are going to enter into the theater, then you have lost. Okay? So thank you very much, Kede, and I hope, I wish you success. And before I left, I will not be able to take your questions because I'm just rushing into another meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. But before you leave, please, can we wave to Professor and clap? Please, please.
Thank you. Thank you
very
much.
Good presentation. You've given us a...
This is a PhD thesis. This is a thesis for somebody like me. This is a thesis, Professor. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I thank you.
Bye-bye, ma. I'm very sorry to leave.
Presentation will be shared after
yes.
the...
Okay.
And if you have any questions...
Yeah, I can answer on chat, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Before we go on to the next speaker, is there any question you would like to ask Mrs. Ezenwa? Any questions for Professor Ebo? Or you can type it as well. Okay, I'm going to call on the next speaker now. And I would like to welcome Engineer Femi Akintunde. Engineer Femi Akintunde is an industrial engineering graduate with master's degree in engineering management and a graduate certificate in management, and is an accomplished engineer and business management professional with strong entrepreneurial drive. Femi is a registered member of many professional organizations such as COREN, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Nigerian Institute of Management, Institute of Personnel Management, Institute of Industrial Engineers, International Facilities Management Association, amongst many others. I would like to welcome you now, Engineer Femi Akintunde. And just before you start speaking, Professor Ebohon talked about facilities management in the agro industry and also in value chain. I think during the questions, you would help us talk about facility management in agriculture from your own perspective. Mr. Akintunde.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank the organizers of this forum. They are very, very good friends in London. Oh, see another one. That's Chidi. All my people over there. I greet everybody there. Just that I'm not in diaspora, I'm here. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I think Nigerians and many other people from outside Nigeria who are on this call have Kede and Esosa to thank for providing this beautiful opportunity for us to discuss some important issues around the business environment and how various industries have been impacted. Let me first of all apologize sincerely, but also register a protest that putting me to speak after a professor. I think it is a very big shoe. That's number two. Professor has done very excellent presentation. I didn't know that I will have the opportunity to do, so I have no presentation. I thought it's just a discussion forum. But I will try my best. So people should forgive me. Any gap you see, it's not my fault. It's the fault of Kede and Sosa. They didn't brief me adequately that I will be on the same panel with Professor. And then next after me is Igwan, one of the biggest construction giants in Nigeria. He will be speaking after me. So you sandwich me between two giants. I will try my best. I think the theme of the event today is economic sustainability in the face of COVID-19. And you've asked me to address the issue in the specific area of facilities management and technology. I like to bring everything in perspective in a structural form. Economic sustainability, I would address how that is very, very germane to the issues affecting Nigeria today, and deal with the issue of economic infrastructure from there. Sustainability is a very big concept, and I will talk about facilities management, put it in context with respect to infrastructure and real estate, and then what has AFAMIT got to offer in that space? How are we contributing to that space in Nigeria and internationally? The current government has a three-point agenda, basically. It's economy, it's security, and it's corruption. So in the context of what we are talking about today, you have picked one of them, which is economy, which is very, very important. You cannot talk about economy without talking about the environment in which the economic activities are taking place. So when we talk in terms of the environment, you are dealing with things that provide the enablement for the economic activities to thrive. And very, very critical in that list is the infrastructure. So when we talk of infrastructure, you can divide infrastructure into two broad categories. You have economic infrastructure and you have social infrastructure. I'm drilling down. So I would leave social infrastructure, which includes things like schools, hospitals, and stuff like that. I would take it down to economic infrastructure because I believe that's the area you want us to concentrate this discussion today. So when we talk of economic infrastructure, again, it has multiple dimensions, but I will concentrate on 4 key areas of economic infrastructure that are of strong relevance to Nigeria, where we are now in sequence. And those are things that when those are in place, your survival capacity is quite strong. And in the order in which it impacts us, why we are feeling the impact of COVID so seriously here in this part of the world. First is power, the power infrastructure. Then you talk about road infrastructure. And I will also say of critical importance to where we are today is the ICT infrastructure, digital economy. Now, if you look at the aspect of infrastructure that we call power, power is critical to the driving force of any economy. And where we are in Nigeria today, our power infrastructure is very, very imbalanced. It's so fragile that this minute you can say you are enjoying 4,000 megawatts of power supply, and a few minutes later, the network has broken down. Why is that the case? Let me put a few statistics in perspective for you. America has a population of about 250 something million, roughly maybe approaching 270 or so. They are producing and generating capacity of 250,000 megawatts. That is what makes them an industrialized nation. Let me come to Africa. So take South Africa, which is another very industrialized nation within Africa. And when you look at their population, you will also see a direct proportion, talking about around 50 million producing 50,000 megawatts. You now take Nigeria, 200 million people. We are struggling to produce 4,000 megawatts. So you can see the proportion. And when you take it one step at a time, the first thing that power will do for you is to meet your basic human needs, something to just power your houses. Then the next level is powering the economy and then powering the entire nation. That's when you move from the basic level towards industrialization. So we are not anywhere close to power that will support industrialization. And that's why industry cannot, where we are today, thrive at the level that they will become competitive with other nations. That's why it will be easier for you to import most production items manufactured items to Nigeria today than making any attempt to start producing or manufacturing it. So that's a big challenge for us. And for us to move forward, that has to be fixed. Do not go to the next critical infrastructure item that we must have and we must address very well to begin to make progress towards economic sustainability. It is the transport infrastructure. And when you talk of transportation, you look at transportation from three broad perspectives. First is transportation by road, transportation by water, transportation by air. We all know the state of our aviation industry in Nigeria. And we know very well that we are not where we should be in terms of ability to connect Nigeria to the rest of the world by air. There was a time that our airport infrastructure was classified as one of the worst in the world. A few civil servants came in defense of that, and they said, no, our airports are one of the best in the world. Our airport, international airport, is modeled after Schiphol in Amsterdam. For those of you, let me say those of us, because I don't travel as often as many people on this platform today, who travel a lot. If you've been to Schiphol, you see Schiphol Airport, and you see what we call our own airport here. it has totally deviated from the original concept of what they had. The power infrastructure at a point, we know how it collapsed, not a few years ago, when there was a complete darkness at the airport. That's a major safety risk. So there's a big challenge there for our air infrastructure. You take the water infrastructure, we haven't even developed it at all, because there's a lot of water in Nigeria that if we focus to develop the transportation system around water, it will take a lot of traffic off the road. Now let me now talk about road infrastructure, land transportation, sorry. Land transportation is of two broad categories again. You talk of rail transport system and you talk of road transport system. Unfortunately, our roads and bridges have not been developed. I cannot remember the last time we constructed a major bridge in Africa, in Nigeria, sorry. The last in Lagos, I think it was the Third Mainland Bridge. And we're talking about the River Niger now. So we have clearly neglected the provision of infrastructure. When we had a lot of money in the 70s, when oil was flowing and money was flowing after it, it was at that point that we abandoned agriculture. And a lot of money was spent to provide infrastructure for us. But most of those infrastructure that were provided then, maintenance has become a big issue now that we're not maintaining them well. So the problem is we don't have enough of those infrastructure, and yet the little that we have, we're not maintaining them well. And that is where facilities management and infrastructure have a connection point. So that's a big problem for us. And also the road infrastructure that we have, for you to connect the city and connect economy properly to flow, you must connect the cities. And I dare say that if you go to places like London, if they say London is the commercial center of Europe, the only thing that earns London that reputation, that brand, is the underground system. For those of you who are based there, you know how many people in thousands, tens and hundreds of thousands that the underground move on a daily basis. So you want to move a 100-kilometer distance. In 1 hour, you are there. And mass transportation is key. We still move petroleum products on the road. So we have roads that are not adequate and have been overflowed and have been under-maintained. So how do you connect the cities? What is the implication of that? Urbanization, mass urbanization. A lot of people are leaving the rural area and they're moving to the city. So the effect is that our city is now over-congested. That has created a major challenge for those of us in the facilities management industry. And when people are talking about inadequate housing, it is not housing in the rural communities. It is in places like Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt. And until when we're able to provide connectivity where somebody can afford to live in Ibadan and come to Lagos to work on a daily basis and go back to Ibadan in 1 hour, then you see how Lagos will be decongested almost instantly, because it's cheaper to live in most of those places than to live in Lagos. So we have to focus on some of those critical infrastructure. The COVID-19 situation has thrown up a lot of challenges in some key areas. The number one is that it has challenged our health and it has challenged our wealth through economic factors. Our healthcare system has been shown to be grossly inadequate and deficient in functionality. But beyond that is also one critical aspect that we thought we had made significant progress, but it has been overstretched recently. That is the digital infrastructure. Because we are now at a point where if we cannot move physically, we want to move by digital means. And just a few days ago, I had a Zoom party to celebrate my wife who turned 50. We had 5 solid infrastructure, 5 solid backbone of internet connectivity on standby. I tell you, in a 2-hour program, more than 3 or 4 times, everything collapsed one at a time. And the reason is just because there is a stretch. And the telecommunication companies are struggling. They cannot meet up with what we have. And they are no longer investing in developing infrastructure. The one they have is overstretched. So we have not invested enough. And what you then see is that people cannot physically move around, and ability to make voice calls, make data calls is collapsing. I was listening to the CEO of Google recently, and he said something. The American motto says, "In God we trust." And then he added a line. He said, "But every other person must provide data before we can trust them." What it means is that technology is the next thing that will drive the world. Knowledge age is where we are now. And for you to have knowledge, you must have data. Data determines everything. If you don't have data, you cannot make good information. You cannot be well informed. And when you're not well informed, you cannot make quality decisions. And that could probably explain why we say many things work in other countries. We struggle to make them work here in Nigeria. So we have to focus and develop those kind of infrastructure to help us move things forward.
Okay. That
takes me to facilities management. What is facilities management? Facilities management is a profession that provides enabling physical environment and manages it for people to get along with their daily lives. It cuts across different entities. And it has a micro definition and a macro definition. In a micro sense, people think of facilities management as building maintenance system and infrastructure maintenance. But in a larger perspective, it actually talks about business support services. And that's why you will not talk of facilities management in its own complete fashion without mentioning other things that make offices, residential, and infrastructure work efficiently. You start talking of things like even IT infrastructure. You talk of cleaning services, soft FM services and hard FM services, your air conditioning system maintenance, your lift and your escalators, your elevator systems. You talk of electricity generation and distribution. So it has a very wide dimension, and it contributes around 5% of the GDP in most developed nations. Here in Nigeria, it's less than 0.01% because we haven't gotten it right. And that is why a lot of things are not working. Facilities management, with respect to infrastructure, I've explained. It is about how do we manage those infrastructure to help deliver the purpose for which they were made, and also to extend the life cycle for as long as it can go. But it also has a nexus with real estate. So real estate that supports business services like offices, real estate that supports corporates, residential, public infrastructure, and public real estate assets like government buildings. They are very, very key. So if we manage all these items very well, productivity will improve. People will get to their office early. They will operate in a very well-maintained environment. The toilet facilities will work well. They will have water, they will have power, everything will work. And productivity will be enhanced. Let me now link this to COVID-19 and the impact on the facilities management industry and businesses in general. It has changed us, like I said, because we were not prepared and the world was not prepared. If giants, industrialized nations like America, like in Europe, like Asia, if they struggle, how much more we that have not even prepared and our infrastructure is not up to the standard that can sustain our requirements under this kind of constraint environment. So it has really, really shown where we should focus our energy and invest resources so that if another one is coming, we'll be better prepared. But there are lost opportunities. Everybody knows that China has really been like the manufacturing region of the world today. And coming out of this COVID situation, a lot of people will want from other parts of the world will be looking for other places where they will need to minimize their risk. Naturally, Africa should be the one to receive that opportunity. But are we ready? We're not ready because it costs us more to produce anything here than to import it from the advanced and developed nations of the world. So we must focus resources in that area. So lastly, let me just talk about technology as an enabler, as an accelerator of business processes. We must develop infrastructure. And in that respect, technology, I will talk about PropTech, property technology. And in our FAMID, we leverage technology a lot, both in terms of how our processes are automated that enables you to maintain things properly, and also how you can use it to improve the standard of your service delivery to the customers. We have quite a number of tools, and I can talk about some of them later. But at this point, I would like to say a big thank you for the opportunity once again. And I hope I've been able to relate the economic sustainability issue to infrastructure, to real estate, and to facilities management. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very incisive. We've learned quite a lot. We have a lot more to learn from. I think there will be time for questions after. But I would like to call on Engineer Igwa Aisabo to give us the presentation. Engineer Igwa is a professional engineer and an entrepreneur. He's the founder and chief executive officer of Construction Kaiser Limited, a 27-year-old building and civil engineering construction company operating in Nigeria. Igwa is an alumnus of the University of Benin and the Harvard Business School, Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome, Igwa.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me just try and share my screen. Give me a minute, please. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event. It's a pleasure, a real privilege to be with you, to speak at this event, and among distinguished panelists. I particularly like the first presentation. It was straight from the streets, from the ground, and without too much academics, too much noise, she delivered it. As businessmen and women, we're at war every day. And today we have a different enemy, an unseen one called COVID-19. So we have to fight it the way we fought other things in our business. And Prof, very good. And my brother Femi, as always, he doesn't need to prepare any presentation. He's a prof, even without his presentation. So today we're talking about the economic sustainability in the face of COVID-19. As we all know, this started as a health crisis that moved to financial and then social. We're aware that the GDP worldwide is going to be adversely affected by the pandemic. And for developing economies, it's going to shrink by 2.5% at the least. And for advanced economies, even up to 7%. Global GDP is going to contract by 3 to 5%. As we all know, a lot of businesses are folded up. We've seen unprecedented job losses. And most importantly, over 500,000 deaths, which is very sad. May their souls rest in peace. So we see declining consumption, restriction of movement that's brought about by social distancing because we have to be far away from each other to avoid spreading the virus. People are uncertain about their income, businesses are uncertain, and there's also erosion of wealth. We see declining investments due to uncertainties that discourage investing, poor expectations of profitability in investment. We see increasing government expenditure. Of course, they have to fight the virus, and also fiscal policy. We see declining exports, the disruption to supply chain, border closure to non-essential trade, and limited market for exports due to fall in global demand. We can see that with our oil. Some companies have been adversely affected. We know of Airbnb. You see their valuation used to be $31 billion, now it's $18 billion. They laid off thousands of staff. Of course, because people can't go and stay in hotels and apartments, so the business got into trouble. JCPenney filed for bankruptcy, which closed 242 stores. TM Lewin, over a 100-year-old company, laid off 600 people, and they're shutting down their physical stores. Virgin Australia, Aviation, and Macy's. Now, all these they might just be data, but these are people who were breadwinners for their families, and they're out of work today. I think, that gives a perspective to what has happened. Some companies are thriving in this pandemic. Amazon, Zoom, Madam talked about Zoom, Netflix. Companies are thriving. So, what are the industries expected to thrive through this pandemic? E-commerce. Why? Because rather than go out to the grocery shop, I'd rather stay in my house and place online order. I don't want to go to the shop and go and touch the trolley and touch anybody, or allow somebody to cough in my face. So e-commerce is thriving. Logistics companies are thriving. Telecoms are thriving despite the fact that their facilities are stretched. And then something I found very interesting, telehealth. I'm a strong advocate of telehealth. There's a lot you can do without seeing the doctor physically. Prof has talked about agriculture. Then technology, of course, we're trying to do things remotely, working from home, so we need technology. And then whether we like it or not, we need some form of infrastructure. We need health infrastructure. So we are seeing China building a how many thousand bed hospital in 10 days. We see labs being built, isolation center being built. That's also infrastructure. And this is a time where indigenous companies will start to thrive because it's difficult to import at this time. So I'm going to dive into the construction industry now to see the effect of COVID-19 on the construction industry. Like I said, disruptions in supply chain. So in the past, every small thing we want to import tiles, we want to import sanitary fittings. Now it's almost impossible to import. We are now forced to get these things locally, create an opportunity. We have increased site operation costs, of course, because of the new safety measures due to social distancing, wearing of masks, limits the number of people that can work on a particular site. And that impacts on the projects because you now have extended delivery periods. Material scheduling becomes very difficult because of logistics problems. And then the communication, to communicate with our colleagues, we have to do that remotely from home, which is making it difficult, even with our clients too. And moving, like I said, moving materials back and forth, so difficult. So financing, we see increased project costs, disruption to credit payments. If you are owing money to the bank, you cannot pay properly because you cannot pay on time because your plans have been thrown out through the windows. In fact, some people say, look, this 2020 should just do and finish. We are tired of 2020. Of course, because all our plans have been thrown out of the window. We see increased operational costs, foreign exchange concerns with the devaluation of the Naira. We see delayed payments from clients and, of course, loss of revenue. You plan to do 100% in 2020. That 100% is now 50%. You have to cut down your expectations and plan with lower expectations Because the truth is that business is going to drop or has dropped already. Now, in human resource management in the business, we have increased health concerns, of course, because of COVID-19. We have to be careful so that our staff don't get sick. And unfortunately, if you have a breakout of COVID-19 on a project site, for example, that site is shut down for weeks. You have to decontaminate, look for new workers. So that's a problem. We have to plan our manpower. And something that is overlooked a lot is the mental health issues that are coming out of this pandemic. People having to stay at home all day, all night. They lose track of the. When we were under lockdown, I couldn't tell the day of the week. I couldn't tell the time of the day. I was sleeping from 12 midnight to 12 in the afternoon, sleeping at odd times because, I lost track of time. And I'm sure it happened the same thing with everybody. We've had to downside, and it's difficult to get motivated in this setting. Sometimes you just get depressed by what is going on and result in reduced performance. Now, how do we attain sustainability in the construction industry at this time? We have to leverage technology. Femi talked about that because we're working from home. We have to do a lot of things remotely. So we have to use technology to achieve those things. We have to deal with clients, deal with the contractual issues of the pandemic, declaring force majeure, and even having to work in a new way because we can't work the way we used to work before. I talked about logistics, and then financial model for our work, for the budget and site operations. We have to review that. And then we have to consider expanding our services to increase revenue generation. So we are going to areas where we were not operating before within the construction space to see how we can make money because things have changed. Financing, cash is king. We have to, hold on to the cash we have, defer capital expenditure where we can. I talked about restructuring debt. And as Madam talked, accessing government palliatives if you qualify. And like I said, we have to engage in communication with our clients and be honest with our creditors. We talked about devaluation, the sort of supply chain, and then the business risk. You need to have a business continuity plan. We have to, because the business has been disrupted, we have to have a plan to ensure that the business remains beyond this pandemic. We've touched on this, and then we have to, something very important, plan and conduct online trainings to increase productivity. This is something we've done very well in Construction Kaiser. When we're in lockdown, within 1 week of the lockdown, we started training online. Rather than sit at home and feel sorry for ourselves, we started training online, and we really, really benefited a lot. So that when we reopened, we had people who were better with knowledge, doing things differently, and that was very useful to us. We have to renovate. We have to innovate at this time. It's so important. We cannot continue to do things the way we used to do them before. We have to see this challenge as an opportunity to create new value streams in the business. We have to press the reset button and see the business as a new startup, spring up with new businesses. And like Madam said, we have to collaborate. We have to be ambidextrous, manage COVID-19 with one hand today, and prepare for post-COVID-19 with another hand. And like I said, this is not a silver bullet, just keeps to help overcome the problem. For government to ensure and to foster economic sustainability, they have to look at impact investing. We talked about power and provide low-interest business loans to small businesses, and they have to invest in healthcare. Reduce bottlenecks in the port so that business, importation and export can be easier, and then transportation infrastructure. Now, something else, government needs to invest in infrastructure to create jobs because there has to be deliberate effort to create jobs at this time. And we've seen that in agri, in healthcare, in technology, in infrastructure, construction, there are opportunities that can be created if we focus on them. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you very much. That was a lovely presentation. Thank you.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much. Quite a lot of things that we have, we've learned from you, in addition to what Mrs. Ezewa, Professor Ebohan, Engineer Akintude have talked about. You've talked a lot about quite a number of things. And we are going to take questions now from the presentations that have been given. So I would invite people to unmute and ask questions.
I think to avoid chaos, Esosa, the best thing is for people to raise their hand if they want to ask a question. Otherwise, you can have 1,700 people unmuting and it will be chaos. So
Okay.
if they can use the icon and raise their hand. And saying that, I would, because I'm giving the suggestion, I'll start with the first question, if that's okay.
That's good. Thank you, Chidi.
Good. And I'm going to give the question to the lady of the house, Mrs. Ezenwa. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. This is Chidi speaking from the UK, one of the directors of Nigeria Investment Gateway, as well as the CODOB group of companies. Just, you know, I was really fascinated about what you mentioned about your experience during the Biafra War and how that carried you through to where you are today. Now, based on your experience at the Biafra War and looking at what's happened with COVID, I know you touched on it a little bit, but what is the most single thing that any entrepreneur needs right now to be able to overcome this challenge?
You're
mute, I think. I think you're mute, Mrs. Ezenwa.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Very clearly.
Thank you very much, Chidi, for this brilliant question. The one thing I think an entrepreneur needs right now is value reorientation, mindset change. You have to think about now and next. I call it the now and next people are the only ones that will survive. Not the then, the now and next. Thank you.
So think about the now and next.
Thank you very much for that succinct answer. Thank you.
Samuel Uwumbu, you have a question to ask? Please unmute yourself. Sam.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
This is Samuel from London. I'm extremely honored to be invited. I've listened to all the key speakers. I've looked at over 70 people online, excited about what is going on. And a special thank you to the organizers. This is well structured. My little question is my brother that have done a presentation on the construction.
Engineer Okasabo.
Engineer Okasabo, the Nigerian government just made a presentation about 2 weeks ago about expanding on the highways of road in Nigeria. What could be your advice, or what do you think might be the best way that all of us can work together to help the Nigerian government in what they wanted to achieve in Nigeria, reference to toll gates, reference to resting on the highways, huge opportunities within the highway industry. What could be the best way for all of us to work together to help the Nigerian government? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question, sir. We all know that as a country we are broke, we don't have money. So I think public-private partnerships would be very key to expanding our highway infrastructure. And there are opportunities in toll gates, resting areas, like you said, trailer parks, and then the roads themselves. I think the government needs to open up those sectors because there's no government that can do it all. And especially at this time where the oil revenues are down, I think the best way to go, these are investment opportunities. And I think government is very open. They know that they don't have the money they used to have. So they're very open to this proposal and this opportunity. Thank you.
Can I just say something? What about reputationally? What does the government and the businesses in Nigeria need to do?
Is that for me?
Yes. And for other members of the panel.
Okay. So I've said the government needs to open their arms and welcome investors. That's a hard sell at this point because you see, good capital always looks for good deals. There's capital all over the world, even at this time, looking for good deals. And what the government needs to do is to win confidence of investors. And that's by allowing, there has to be proof of concept. They need to respect deals. If you go into a PPP deal with an investor, you have to respect that transaction. Not having policies from assault that change the goalpost every time. So when you go into a deal, rightly or wrongly, as government, you need to stick with it to encourage other people to be able to come back and sign PPP deals with them. So they need to improve confidence in investors. And as businesses, I would say we just have to be innovative. There are opportunities out there. We have to be innovative and look for the opportunities in the crisis. We have a crisis, but there are opportunities in the challenge, like we've all seen in agri and all the sectors we talked about.
Thank you. Mrs. Ezenwa, Engineer Akintunde, is there anything you want to add to that? Okay. Kede wants to ask a question. Kede.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think my question really is to Engineer Femi Akintunde. And so without further ado, let me just say that with facility management, how can this be part of a curriculum for built environment and engineering so that our people, because somebody talked about the mindset, how do we make this part of a critical way of thinking in terms of maintenance?
Thank you very much, Kede. I think when people talk of poverty, poverty is of the mind. And the best way to liberate yourself is to be well educated. When you are aware of something, you know what you don't know. And you also know what you know. So I would say that we have deviated in things that would add value to our lives when we were developing the curriculum, educational curriculum for Nigeria. You will remember that in those days, polytechnic education was as vibrant as university education at the senior level. We had so many technical colleges. Nowadays, nobody will wake up in the morning and say the first place to send your child to is technical college. But when you talk of technical and vocational skills in most of those advanced countries, you can have a good plumber that is earning far more than somebody who is a manager in another organization. So we have to start and retrace our steps. Where did we miss it? What do we need to correct? What do we need to restructure? How do we make those skills more profitable and more economically empowering for people that they want to go into it? The dignity of labor, we need to restore it into those fields. And I think that is the starting point at the government level, but at individual level as well, because setting up such schools, they are not cheap. But if we can do that, we'll begin to start the correction from the educational level. AFAMID is trying to set up some things now because we discover that over time, you have all these people that went to technical colleges. Even when they come out, they don't get a job. So why would I go into something and waste 3, 4, 5 years of my life and I finish, I cannot even feed myself, not to talk of feeding my family and feeding people who sent me to school. So what we try to do is we're trying to take those steps. People in school, as they finish their technical colleges, we take them into a skill development center to help them hone their skill, polish the technical education they've had, which is theoretical from school, and prepare them for employment. And the interesting thing is that we have a large platform to actually put them into job, given the nature of our own business. And we have technology platform that we can get them registered on, because we have a new tool that is going to be providing facility management at the retail level. And that will require us to employ thousands of technicians, thousands upon thousands, because right now, the market is not connected to where the source of supply is. And that technology enables people to be able to call a plumber, to call an electrician, and the closest 30 minutes from you, somebody will respond. So we are preparing people for that opportunity, and I believe strongly that it will go a long way to drive facility management down, to improve maintenance standard of people's assets, and also to provide economic empowerment for the people at that level. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we are hearing is that there is scope for a lot of jobs to be created and for our people to have jobs. Does that include those in the diaspora as well?
Well, the opportunity for those in diaspora is that, interestingly, that tool has opportunity for licensing it to people outside. And if any of our people in the diaspora is interested, we are willing to partner with them to give them a license that they can operate in their location, as long as you can mobilize sufficient. There's no place where they don't need those services. And I believe that even in London, where you have rated people, the way the service is provided over there, what we have designed to manage Nigeria environments is far more robust, because what works there doesn't work here. But what works here, we overwork there. So that makes it very, very interesting that people in diaspora can also begin to connect with opportunities, because they have people at home, they have aged parents. And these people also have the same maintenance problems we have in their homes, like everybody. And they want to take care of their parents. They don't have something that enables them. So somebody in diaspora can easily register an account, pay for it, and the services will be provided to the people as if you are there. And I'm sure they will be very grateful to you for taking care of them, even when you are not at home.
Okay. And Mrs. Ezenwa, you said you are going to say something on what the government is doing. Please.
Yes, there are so many stimulus packages that the federal government has unveiled to mitigate the impact of this COVID. I will urge everyone to try to register with SMIDAN register.ng. If you're a Nigerian and you run a small business, please register online with this agency. It's a small and medium enterprise development agency of Nigeria. They have
that's SMEDAN, SMEDAN.
Yes, register.ng. You will be able to get a lot of information. They offer training programs. They offer soft loans from 500,000 to 10 million, not collateralized. You have also the Bank of Industry. They give loans from 5 million to 10 million without any collateral. All you will require is just to have a guarantor. You also have the CBN Microfinance Bank, NERSAL. You can go online, look at NERSAL, apply, but you have to be patient because they ask a lot of questions. There are a lot of NGOs, National Association of Women Entrepreneurs. They have WIMBIs. They have small, I can list them and send them to you.
Please do, and I will share with
you. Can, yes, yeah. So that people will get to know that there are people who are working behind the line to ensure that small businesses thrive. So, but you cannot just sit down and get these things on a platter of gold. You have to work, you have to research, you have to ask questions, you have to share knowledge. And I'm always available to give people knowledge. I am preparing at least 300 youths for what I call post-pandemic prosperity, PPP.
That is very good.
It is a course I have designed for anyone who wants to know, how do I prosper? I have also opened what I call African Bank of Ideas, where ideas are generated, and then I supply the framework. So there are people who are ready to serve, and I'm ready to serve. I'm ready to keep giving people knowledge. But are they willing to take the knowledge? That is left for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ezenwa. She's thrown the challenge back at you. So if you are willing to learn and if you are willing to do, there are so many resources available to you. And Mrs. Ezenwa has given you that. Engineer Igbo has given you that. Engineer Kintude has also given you that. I've got two people who are going to ask questions. Osadona Dorin and Taye. Don first, please go ahead and ask.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My question is to Engineer Ibu Amikasabo, a fellow Unibena alumni, if I must say so. My question is, what is responsible for the seeming mistrust between Nigerian engineering firms and the Nigerian government? What do Nigerian civil engineering investors and companies have to do to earn the trust of the political class and those in governance to award road construction, for instance, road infrastructure development to Nigerian construction companies? That's my question.
Thank you very much, Don. We have been strong advocates of local content for years. We've been fighting the battle. So when Ms. Ezenwa talked about going to war, we have been fighting this war for decades. This company is 27 years old. We face headwinds every day. And the trust that we're talking about is one of the headwinds we face. Government is the highest employer of the construction companies around the world, infrastructure projects, everything. So when we don't work for government, then we lose out completely. Unfortunately, they prefer to deal with foreign companies. I don't know why. Maybe you need to tell me. I don't know why they feel more comfortable dealing with foreign companies. But there are many competent Nigerian companies that are stepping up to the table now to deliver good quality work and to operate with integrity, most importantly. But why they don't want to patronize them, I don't know. You have local content laws that are not being respected. We don't know. But we remain hopeful. We are strong advocates. We've joined FOSI. FOSI is the Federation of Construction Industry Professionals, and we're advocating for patronage for the indigenous companies. Because it's only when we patronize indigenous companies that our children can have jobs when they come out of school. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes I ask them, so when you give the project to Chinese, to Germans, when your child comes from school, you now phone me, please, I want a space for my child to do IT. Or my child has graduated from school, he needs a job. I cannot employ your son if I don't have projects to put them on. And I always say this, I've been wanting this for so many years, and it's coming to happen now. If we don't develop skills in country to be able to deliver these critical infrastructure jobs that we want, when finally these Europeans or Chinese decide to leave the country, who's going to build our roads? Who's going to build our refineries? Who's going to build our oil installations? Now, that was 3-4 years ago I started talking about this. Today, they've left because of COVID-19. Everybody's more comfortable in their own country. So does it mean that we're not going to build houses until COVID-19 is finished? So we need to develop these competencies in-house, in-country. We need to make those mistakes and learn from them so that we can be better at what we do and we can give jobs to our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, and our children. Everybody is protecting their own. When those Chinese companies come to Nigeria to work, they bring their own people because they want to create employment for their people. The same thing with the European companies. They are creating employment for their people. When they're importing, they want to buy cement, they bring from their country. They want to buy cars, they bring from their country, creating work for the people working in the factories in their country. And yet we have unemployment of 25%. We really need to do some soul searching. Government needs to have clear strategies and focus on how to keep their people busy. And by the way, we are being forced to do it now because of COVID-19. So really, government should capitalize on the opportunity of COVID-19 and indigenize things, create industries in the country so that even after COVID-19, we can be self-sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor.
Yeah, Esosa, let me quickly add something to what Igwan has said.
Okay.
I think it's a two-way traffic, right? On the one hand, government has a responsibility and a role to play there. On the other side, also, we as engineers also have a role to play. What you don't have, you cannot give. The political class know the amount of the level of damage that has happened to the educational system, particularly the technical education in Nigeria. So they don't have that confidence. And I think it's also a question of guilty conscience, all right? Because it's like you have a child that you have not given education, and you say something basic that you should be able to do. You say, no, let me call somebody else to come and do it. And one day you visit your friend, you see your child solving real problem for them. You say, so you know how to do this thing. We have neglected our own. And that is why people like Chidi will go to London and excel. People like Esosa, like Kede, they are there. You see Nigerian doctors, Nigerian engineers, when they leave the shores of this country, they excel. And they were trained from here. So that is telling us something, that we have not created the enabling environment for these people to thrive. We have the same brain. We have the same capacity as engineers. We follow the same curriculum, like any engineer anywhere in the world follow. But when we finish, our own people don't have confidence because they did not invest enough. We read at night using lantern instead of electricity, but they didn't know that we understood what we were learning. And we can do it. The Nigerian content policy has been in place in the oil and gas industry. And that is why you now see a lot of Nigerian companies taking position in the oil and gas industry. It was a deliberate decision. It was a deliberate and intentional policy of government. We need to extend that to the construction and the telecoms industry. Yeah. And by the way, all the industries. When government when they decide to do that, and we put enforcement behind it, construction work will begin to flow to Nigerian companies, and then we begin to develop our own people, because any foreigner that comes to your country to come and do economic activity, they are there, they will take the profit away, they will take the money away. The only money that will retain, the only wealth that will retain in this country are the ones created by Nigerians for Nigerians.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what we have talked about now is the value of developing in-house. We have the resources, we have the people, we have the education. What we need is an enabling environment from the government. But don't wait for the government. Do things on your own, like Mrs. Eze once said, take practical steps. COVID-19 will come, COVID-19 will go. There will be a lot of other challenges that we will face. How will you deal with it? What will you do? What kind of advantages will you take? I will just quickly get Taye to ask a question. Oh, please keep it very brief, because we have about 6 minutes to go. Taye.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. And my question goes to, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my question goes to Engineer Okai Sabo. And it's simple. The construction industry is indeed is a major contributor to the country's GDP. And just like every other major sectors in the country, it's currently being affected by the COVID-19, particularly in regions where construction technology has not been embraced as it is in the advanced countries. So my question is simple. What does engineer thinks about how to fast track construction technology in Africa? Maybe in Nigeria, yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Clearly, when there's a recession, construction industry is the first to suffer. Because people want to hold on to the little money they have and ask themselves, why should I embark on this project when I'm not sure of my tomorrow? But at the same time, it creates opportunities. It creates opportunities. So we in the construction industry, for Construction Kaiser, we've been trying to embrace technology for a while, and we have been moving, I would say, slowly in that direction. But with the COVID-19, advent of COVID-19, we're accelerating that process. We're adopting BIM. We're thinking about doing a lot of offsite construction. So I said something during my presentation. We need to be ambidextrous, using one hand to solve to this problem. So using the other hand to prepare for the future. We must prepare for the future. We must come up with new ways of doing things. I see a situation where there will be more offsite construction because we want to now, prepare things in a controlled environment, modular construction, and just go and assemble on site. So there are going to be changes in the industry. There are going to be disruptions in the industry, and the companies that are looking ahead are the ones that are going to benefit from it. So that's what I think exactly about that. Yeah.
Okay. What I would like to do is, Mrs. Ezenwa has practicalized on what it is to be an entrepreneur and what you need to have in place to continue to thrive, even in very challenging times like COVID-19. And also Professor Ebohon has shared his take on agriculture and the value chain, and that we have not even done anything about agriculture or value chain. There are a lot of opportunities coming about. And Engineer Akintunde has talked to us about facilities management and also the values in facilities management, and also that is an industry that is yet untapped. So Engineer Igbon Okasabo has also talked about construction. Construction, we have not done anything about it. Construction, maintenance, are so many things that we have to do. 2 hours is not enough to talk about the things that we need to talk about. As Kede said earlier, we are going to, this is a series of events that we are having. So we are going to have one very soon. It will be regular events and it will be on themes. So there will be a lot more time and a lot more scope to look at what we need as a nation, to look at what we need as businesses, and to look at what the globe offers as opportunities that we can tap into as people, as businesses. Kede is going to give the closing remarks now. Kede.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, this event it's been a very good one, and I want to thank everybody who have participated. But we also have people who supported us, and so it's appropriate that we recognize them. In no particular order, let me first of all thank Alpha Mead Group. Let me thank Leluk. I'm still trying to pronounce Leluk, but it's Leluk, I'm told. Let me also thank Codob. Actually, without their technical expertise, some of us would have struggled. As a matter of fact, I am now using my mobile phone, having lost contact with my laptop. So that tells you how challenging technology can be. And also there is MEPON. I hope I've said it right. It's MEPON, who is also an engineer. Actually, I think the guy behind it is also an engineer, but it's my good friend, Emmanuel Okorafor. But yes, it's done well. And there's KJ Cargos, if I also remember, as our supporters. But having said that, once again, a very brilliant presentation. And the recordings we are also going to make available to our members on the platform first. And we'll also send to those who have registered. And if you haven't, you can reach us. Yeah, sorry.
Those in attendance today.
Yeah, and those in attendance today will certainly be getting the recording from us. It's been so brilliant. I think everyone deserves a round of applause. You couldn't have done better than what everyone has done now. So I say thank you very much. We try to keep to time. Your time is precious. We appreciate it, because to spend 2 hours really shows that you have given a lot. So thank you very much, and have a very wonderful weekend, and we will get in touch again. Thank you.